The elderly woman's left thumb was gone. Her arms and legs were covered in a thick layer of grime. Additionally, a bad odor invaded the nostrils of the social workers and police officers as they approached. Authorities arrived at the West Covina, California, home in July 2018 after learning that several people were residing there for unclear reasons and that cars were roaring in and out of the backyard all day long. However, LaDonna Davis, 74, the homeowner, was unable to provide any insight into the circumstances. She didn't seem to understand what they were doing or who was staying there. She once passed out in front of the police. Gilbert Amos, a code enforcement officer with the West Covina Police Department at the time, recalls thinking, "We've got to get her out of here." LaDonna was known to Amos. In West Covina, almost everyone was familiar with LaDonna. When she and her husband, Street James, adopted a young chimpanzee named Mo and reared him like a son, they made news for the first time in the late 1960s. However, Street James had passed away the week before, and the officers now thought his weak and mentally challenged wife was being used. They were unaware that it would take over a year to get her out of the position, and in that time, members of a violent motorcycle gang would seize control of her property, hundreds of thousands of dollars would be taken out of her accounts, and the majority of her belongings would be stolen. "We were unable to halt the bleeding," Amos stated. According to reports, LaDonna had gone through a severe form of what millions of Americans who are elderly go through each year. The most prevalent type of elder abuse is financial exploitation. However, few have as strange, or tragic, a history as LaDonna and St. James Davis. A peculiar family. They had a vehicle obsession. Street James was a professional boat racer in the 1970s before switching to NASCAR. One of the first female crew chiefs on the circuit, LaDonna served in that capacity. However, Mo the chimp was the true star of the Davis household. When Mo was brought home from Tanzania by St. James in 1967, the Davises treated him more like a son than a pet right away. Mo would sleep on their bed and dine with them at the kitchen table. At their wedding, he served as the best man. However, the city of West Covina attempted to have Mo removed from the Davises' house in 1971, which led to a courtroom altercation in which the judge lavished the chimp with lavish praise. Judge Jack Alex stated, "Based on my observations of Mo both outside and within the courtroom, he does not exhibit the characteristics of a wild animal and is actually somewhat better behaved than some people." After he bit a house guest's finger, Mo was taken from the Davises' home and placed in a wildlife sanctuary, where he remained for almost 30 years. In 2005, when visiting him on his 39th birthday, the unimaginable occurred. Street James and LaDonna were about to share birthday cake with Mo when two other chimps broke out of their cage. The Davises were attacked by these apes, Ollie and Buddy. LaDonna's left thumb was bit off, but Street James took the brunt of the blow. In addition to chewing off his nose, 8 fingers, a portion of his cranium, and portions of his lips, cheek, buttocks, genitalia, and feet, the chimps also gouged out his right eye. After several minutes of mauling, a family member of the sanctuary's owner came out with a rifle and killed the 2 chimps. Street James had multiple procedures and stayed in the hospital for 5 months. However, he would never be able to walk, see with his right eye, or use his hands fully again. The Davises frequently paid Mo a visit when he was sent to a different institution in the San Bernardino Mountains. Then, one day in 2008, a facility co-owner called with terrible news. Mo was gone. He had allegedly broken off steel welds and escaped from his confinement. Despite a desperate search by the Davises, Mo was never found. All of a sudden, the chimp they had cherished for almost 40 years as a son was no longer in their lives. When LaDonna, his round-the-clock caregiver, comforted him, Street James choked back tears and told me, "I can talk for days about Mo. I simply miss him terribly. I worked with the Davises for 3 days in order to write an article for Esquire magazine. They only spoke extensively about 2 topics during the long hours we spent together, vehicles and their missing chimp." LaDonna stated, "I hope Mo is making good decisions for himself wherever he is." According to the court docket, the Davises never had much money, but in 2009 they received $4 million in a settlement relating to the attack. Life became more difficult during the following few years. LaDonna was in her early 70s and slowing down, and St. James needed regular care. The couple became even more vulnerable as longtime friends and neighbors lost contact and, in some cases, passed away. The Davises' belongings occasionally vanished, and some personnel hired to assist at their 1.5-acre Holt Avenue property kept showing up. According to lifelong friend Michael McCasland, she just always wanted to help people. But it seemed like everyone took advantage of her. The Davises then met Min Za Ma, a Myanmar immigrant who shared their passion for automobiles. He referred to LaDonna as Mommy. In 2017, Ma first met the Davises. The conversation soon shifted to automobile engines when he met Street James. According to its website, Ma's company, PowerTech Engineering Group, designed the world's best natural gas and propane engine combustion system. However, it seemed that he had fallen on hard times. In July 2017, a default judgment was made against him and his then-wife, evicting them from their apartment in neighboring Arcadia after their landlord sued them for not paying the $2,250 monthly rent. Ma approached a local businessman about investing in his engine company just before he met the Davises. Javier Puga, a businessman and the Davises' family friend, remarked, "He had a good story. Then I discovered he was a liar." Puga claimed that he let Ma utilize one of his construction yards for a short time. Puga remarked, "The guy was dead broke." Ma claims he was evicted for working on an engine in the garage, but he denies having financial difficulties at the time. In a deposition, Ma stated that he began spending more time at the Davises' Holt Avenue property after moving his equipment there. He'd met a couple in the Davises with remarkable automobile collections and large bank accounts. They had no family and their health was deteriorating. In a deposition, a lady Ma appointed to be LaDonna's caregiver claimed that soon after, she began referring to him as son, and calling him Mommy. After having a stroke in December 2017, Street James was admitted to the hospital. According to court documents referenced by LaDonna's court-appointed attorney, Frank Pirro, a $50,000 check payable to Ma from one of the Davises' accounts was cashed the same month. It was only one of several dubious financial decisions that will be scrutinized. According to a report Pirro submitted to the court, almost $260,000 was taken out of the couple's Pacific Western bank accounts over the course of 3 months, either by withdrawal or check payable to cash. According to the report, LaDonna was penalized $2,500 for taking out almost $250,000 too soon from a CD account at Citizens Business Bank, another financial institution. According to a review of cleared checks obtained through a subpoena and provided to NBC News by McCasland, the Davises' longtime friend, LaDonna signed checks totaling at least $340,000 between August 2017 and December 2018 made out to Ma, his wife, and a business entity he had created. Ma stated in court filings that he purchased and sold hot rods on LaDonna's behalf in addition to using the $50,000 check to pay labor expenses on her properties. However, an email he sent in response to NBC News's inquiries stated that LaDonna was the one in need of financial support from Ma, not him. The city of West Covina had been informed of concerning activity at the Davises' residences at this time. According to a letter report by Amos, the code enforcement officer, which was based on contemporaneous notes detailing his visits to LaDonna's residence from 2017 to 2019, friends had been calling police to report unknown individuals at the house on Holt Avenue and another one the couple owned on Vincent Street. When officers went to the premises and talked to the squatters, they said they were allowed to reside there and sell the cars that had piled up in the backyards. According to Amos, LaDonna appeared oblivious to the situation when cops spoke to her. However, the police were stuck. There wasn't much they could do because LaDonna informed them that the individuals on the property were authorized to be there. Street James, 75, passed away from cardiac arrest in July 2018. There was no obituary, memorial ceremony, or press report regarding his passing, despite the fact that he was previously among the most well-known individuals in West Covina. It took a few days for some of the Davises' acquaintances to learn, which they now believe was precisely as Ma intended it to be. Terrible circumstances. McCasland visited to see how LaDonna was doing a month before Street James passed away. Since 2002, the Davises have been friends with McCasland, a real estate agent. Following the chimp attack and Mo's abduction, he served as the couple's spokesperson. He remarked, "To me, they were like an older brother and sister." After attempting to contact LaDonna and receiving a message stating that her phone was disconnected, McCasland arrived at her residence. He was left startled and perplexed when he arrived and was told by a disheveled LaDonna that she never wanted to see him again, McCasland claimed. "I realized there was a significant issue at that point," he stated. A Davis family trust that owned their two homes had already appointed McCasland as its successor trustee. However, a new living trust was established in the days following his visit to see how LaDonna was doing, designating Ma as the successor trustee. Ma was also listed as a beneficiary in the trust. A power of attorney paper that LaDonna signed also gave Ma the right to conduct any business with any banking or financial institution with respect to any of her accounts. In a July 2018 court filing, McCasland claimed that Ma ingratiated himself with LaDonna and gained her trust, in an attempt to nullify any contract between Ma and the Davises and reclaim any funds or assets that were in his custody. In her lawsuit, McCasland accused Ma of selling off the couple's belongings and influencing LaDonna excessively. A duplicate of an internet advertisement for a $200 vintage NASCAR gas can was supplied, with Ma's first name and picture in the area identifying the seller. The advertisement, which contained a typo, said, "I have hot rod parts, plowers, tools, and of old things." In court documents, Ma refuted the claims. He said that when McCasland was unable to provide for the couple's basic necessities, he had stepped in. In a 2016 real estate transaction, Ma also accused McCasland of exploiting the Davises, claiming, among other things, that he sold the home to a personal acquaintance at a reduced price. The buyer admitted to NBC News that he had never met McCasland, and he refutes the allegation. Also, the buyer said that he spent more money on LaDonna's property than he did on two bigger structures on the same block. The situation in the Davises' houses became increasingly tumultuous as the court battle continued. There were fights among the squatters. 911 calls increased. There were numerous code infractions. After opening an inquiry, Los Angeles County Adult Protective Services discovered that LaDonna was suffering from terrifying conditions. Diana Homeyer, then medical director of the Los Angeles County Elder Abuse Forensic Center, which includes representatives of adult protective services and law enforcement agencies, reported that during a home visit in April 2019, she was discovered in a room with hundreds of rabbit feces covering the floor and spider wasps buzzing through the air. According to the report, several of LaDonna's possessions were gone, and she was unable to identify the year or her age. Homeyer observed, "She seems to be a victim of financial abuse. It is obvious that she lacks the mental capacity to make decisions regarding her living arrangements, money, or personal hygiene. Furthermore, she is unable to recognize that she is being exploited." According to Amos, the code enforcement officer, the Mongols motorcycle gang took over the Holt Avenue property at some point and evicted Ma from the house. Later, in court documents, LaDonna's court-appointed attorney stated that the presence of the Mongols required a police escort for an Office of the Public Guardian official to visit the site. He wrote, "In the past, they have had no trouble going head-to-head with the Hells Angels. It goes without saying that they are not paying any rent." Ma frequently dialed 911 to alert authorities that LaDonna was in danger. Although there was no proof of this when the officers arrived, it was obvious that LaDonna was in a vulnerable situation. According to Amos's report, people in the house who identified themselves as LaDonna's caregivers told police that Ma had all of the information and was keeping it to himself so he could weasel his way back into LaDonna's life, which prevented them from giving her medication or taking her to doctor's appointments.